Go.
You really think you have a chance against us, Mr. Cowboy?
Hey, mother. What do you like to do?
Oh, I don't know. Play chess. Screw.
Well, let's play chess.
They give off to Jonathan Taylor. Jump cutting his way. Close to the goal line. He's in there. Touchdown. I-N-D-Y. Jonathan Taylor.
Wheeler finds Claude from the logo.
Here's Halliburton into the front court. Mishandled it, but gets a shot. Hits it. Hits it.
John, I have never been better to be on the air with you here in Indianapolis, a place where so many of my dreams have come true.
The Ride with JMV on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Hey, when was the last time you stayed up on a Monday night until around midnight and you just crossed your fingers and you hope? How many of you last night suggested, really all the way up until the final 2 minutes, that this is going to be the biggest waste of sleep opportunity on a Monday night and getting my sleep pattern at the start of the week off to an incredibly awful start? How many of you said either that or something to that effect? Because I'm right there with you. That's what it felt like. It doesn't really matter to me. Yeah, I'll be able to get back in the groove, right? But I know it does matter to some. You probably have a hard wake up type of time. Yeah, whether it's kids or responsibilities or work or whatever. How many times did you consider bailing? Did some of you bail? Because honestly, it was an awful game. It was an awful game with the exception of the outcome. And that's what matters. It was awful. It was the Pacers getting down 12, 14, 15, battling back, pulling to within 3. Not once, not twice, not 3 times, but more. And then going back down 7. And then maybe dipping again into a double-digit deficit. It was just never ending. It was like that dangling carrot of sorts, right? That we talk about. It was never ending. And then all of a sudden, the Pacers stepped up, made some plays defensively. When's the last time, and the guys had mentioned both Eddie and Jake, and then I kind of chimed in on Andrew Nembhard being the defensive player of the month of January in the NBA. I don't know. Did anybody ever look that up? James, look that up. When's the last time a Pacer won the defensive player of the month honor? When was that? There is zero way a year ago we would ever thought to bring such a stat up or thought that there could be a reality check that a Pacer player would win any defensive honor. I mean, basically, Brad Stevens used to say, and probably still does to a degree, guard your yard when he was at Butler. That philosophy, guard your yard. Last year, the Pacers were kind of like us. You and I both, we guard our like half inch, right? That's all we do. Guard your yard. The Pacers rarely, if ever, especially out front, guarded their yard. But I'm going to tell you, without the defense and the takeaways, and I know Utah's awful. Utah, however, was 8-8 against Eastern Conference teams going in. They had beaten Orlando, who lost on the road later last night as well at Golden State. But they had beaten Orlando in the game prior. They are a team that certainly is in rebuild mode and just gets absolutely worked in the Western Conference. But I don't care. You get the first of 4. I mean, you were just in Paris at the beginning of last week, for goodness sake. Paris, France for 2 games. You come home for 2 games, you win those, and then you go out west and you start in Salt Lake City in the first of a back-to-back where you go to Portland coming up later on tonight in a spot where Tyrese Halliburton has never won, in a spot where it has been incredibly difficult. I think the last time the Pacers won in Salt Lake City, wasn't that when Miles beat the hell out of Gobert? Now, actually, that didn't happen, but Miles and Gobert got in a fight. Gobert was playing for the Jazz at the time. That was the last time the Pacers won. You remember the whole get-together between Gobert and Miles? That was the last time. So that streak ended. And the Pacers predominantly got it done on the defensive end. I know you guys are all going to giggle, and I do too, when I say such things. But they got a lot of hands-on balls last night. A lot of deflections. We've had Tom Crean on the show a couple of different times. There was nobody bigger in the coaching ranks, I think, in the history of coaching than Tom Crean on talking about the importance of deflections. I mean, hands on balls all night, and really especially late. That created opportunities, created break opportunities, and really it was like time and time again, it seemed like Tyrese Halliburton was getting opportunities at knocking down a difference-making, a go-ahead three, and it wasn't true. And then finally he made it, and they took off from that point in time. But it was far from a poetic, it was far from an artistic performance. I mean, there's nothing you're going to hang on the wall, and really probably nothing you're going to go back and go, hey, we got to watch this tape again. That was great. No Miles. Thomas Bryant was an absolute mess for 3 quarters. A mess. And the fourth quarter, he made some plays. I saw, and I'm not calling him out for the sake of calling him out at all because you know how much I like him, but I saw Alex Golden had sent out on X last night. Yeah, I don't think Rick Carlisle can go back in the fourth quarter to Thomas Bryant. He called himself out for that. He owned what he had said. But Rick Carlisle did go back to Thomas Bryant, and it paid off because Bryant made some plays. It kind of makes you wonder, as much as I like his exuberance, his emotion, and his enthusiasm, man, that is going to take a big chunk out of their ass at some point in a very important game. So I hope that he's able to dial it down because let's face it, they don't go out and get another big. That's going to be it. So he's going to get a lot of time off the bench, and you can't be stiff-arming your team. Think about that. Of all people to come over to try to get him out of what was just a forgettable mood of basketball being played at the Delta Center last night for Thomas Bryant off the bench. Or check that, as a starter when he's normally off the bench. Of all the people to come over and help try to calm him down, to settle him down, was Benedict Mathurin. And he stiff-armed Mathurin, and, Mathurin, to his credit, Mathurin just said, all right, I got it. Because I think Mathurin had, been down that path before. He goes, yeah, you know what? I kind of felt this way before. I know what he's like. So maybe Mathurin was the perfect guy to try to calm him down and then not be able to calm him down. But it was good to see Thomas Bryant step up in the fourth when the Pacers really needed it. But let's face it, Thomas Bryant, you can't have that fuse of uncertainty on how he's going to react lit. And, again, maybe that's just how he's wired. And he's always been wired that way. Going back to IU, it was the same way. I mean, when you like the guy, so you call, well, he's emotional and he wears his emotions on his sleeve and he's playing hard and, all these things to make you feel better about it. But in a postseason set of circumstances, man, that'll bite you in the ass. So, Thomas Bryant calmed down, made some plays. The Pacers got some deflections, made some defensive plays, and then got over on Salt Lake City in a game that I'm assuming some of you probably went to bed. Others thought, why am I here? Why am I doing this? I'm wasting a lot of time. And wanted a place in which they had not won since some French guy and Miles Turner got into it. And it's been a while. As Stained once said. So we can discuss that. And now, it's funny, you go out west for 4 straight. And I thought the NBA is kind of whack, I think, for putting the Pacers in this situation anyway. I mean, first of all, you send them off to Europe, got to play a couple of games, then you come back, and, you get 2 at home. That's great. And now you got to refire with 4 out west. I mean, come on. Now, there's worse circumstances, like Milwaukee, for example. Milwaukee played at home the other night. Sunday night, they played the Grizzlies at home, lost, and then went on the road last night, the second of a back-to-back in Oklahoma City, and got depantsed. Now, while I giggle and laugh about it, because I think that's funny, That's not the best case situation. So I kind of look at that and think, well, even if I don't like the Pacers' scheduling and what they're having to deal with, going back-to-back in Salt Lake City and Portland on the road, two places the Pacers have not played well anywhere near recently. Doing that is still much better than having to play at home a really good team out west and then go out west to the best team in OKC in back-to-back nights. So I still like the way that the NBA scheduling treated the Pacers in this a hell of a lot more than I like the way that the Bucks. That would stink. So what are the Pacers right now? 28-20, look that up top, James, I believe, right? 28-20. So 4-hole as of right now, they occupy in that playoff picture and playing some incredible basketball. But you also found out a couple of truths last night. You know, in a game like that, a game against a bad team, a game that you probably should have lost, and all other times in the past, there's no doubt you would have lost. You normally can learn some things. And last night, we learned a couple of things. Listen, if they trade Miles or Obi, I'm going to stink and riot. I am going to riot. Last night was yet another significant example. You pick up the tab on this if you're the Pacers and don't blank around with it and keep these guys in here because they are necessary components. And please don't give me that crap about, well, you got to pay this guy and we're going to penny pinch and the first apron or the luxury tax. My ass. You figure out a way to pay it because right now you're in the vicinity of becoming consistently high level. You're now venturing into those waters. You don't want to double back. Both these guys are necessary. You saw that last night with Miles not playing. There is zero way. Like, I have so many of these idiots that have sent me stuff in the past about, well, you know, Thomas Bryant's playing well and he can be the starter. Surely to God, no matter how stupid you are, and some of you out there, especially the anti-33s for a long time, because you can't do it with your ego and your big truck and, you know, you're dangling metal balls off the back of the trailer hitch you have rolling around, and you're talking about rebounding and toughness, and you've never been tough in your entire life. You just act that way. The one thing by now, even all of you idiots out there should understand is how important Miles is to this process. And I thought last night, too, you found out exactly how important Obi Toppin is. Off the bench, given the minutes that he gives, having that streaky type of scorer, a guy that has versatility, a guy that's not going to overwhelm you, but he has been personality-wise, and he has been for this team a perfect fit. You just simply put, you don't build teams. You don't extend guys and then all of a sudden decide because, well, we're really worried about how we're going to pay this and the luxury tax and blah, 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 you pull the plug on it. But Ken, as I've always said, you owe the fans more around here. You owe them. So last night, if you watched that game through the entirety, you once again understood the importance of these parts to this team, and especially those particular two. And I do realize that for example, I can't remember who the jackass was in November who was ripping my mom about how she liked Obi Toppin, but even that idiot probably has to understand, and we're talking about a very small percentage that will never understand the importance that Miles has to this team. But they're still out there, and they're still incredibly stupid. And they still have their little dangling testicles off the back of their trailer hitch in the truck. And by now, if you don't understand, you're simply not going to understand. And you're just kind of there because you won't allow your little fragile ego to just own the fact that you were wrong, and you are wrong. And last night was another great example of how wrong this very small percentage of so-called Pacer fans are and what is necessary with this team. You saw it again last night. Could not be more obvious. And believe me, I'm coming from a stance here. I'm with you, fans. I mean, forget about having to make these decisions because of the finances. Make decisions because you're ready to win and you want to be something. You want to consistently be something. I've mentioned this before. You are right now, you are on the verge with the Pacers, and you are entering into a window with the Fever that will be, I predict, unlike times we have seen, with the combination of both here. With Pacers, sports, and entertainment, don't blank it up. Just don't blank it up. I mean, look how much money the Fever should be able to generate because of one player. And the Fever realizing, the front office realizing what needs to be done. My God, we've been thinking about that in terms of the Colts stinking forever. And you guys have been smarter than the general manager for the past couple of years with that in mind. Think about that. But you are now stepping into a window that will and should go down in history as one of the best. And I realize that you have the echoes of the ABA. I'm not dismissing that. I realize you have the 90s and a rebirth and a realization that, hey, there's an NBA team here and you don't have to lower the black curtain at Market Square Arena and it's fun again. And then you realize a team that goes all the way to the NBA Finals in 2000. I mean, this is still the getting up and walking early stages of one hell of an era. This is not one of these like one and done Oladipo, Sabonis years, or, hey, it was great with Paul George, but Paul George is, thinking about, what might be further down the road. I'm going to change my number on PG-13. I'm not Paul George, number 24 anymore. Oh, yeah, by the way, I'm going to put you in a bad spot and one out, and then I'm going to want a video that shows how much you guys love me. Yeah, this is different. These guys are invested here like you guys are invested in them, and it's a hell of a group. And I've told you this all along. It's something you could see early. So you had the fan base invested in you and both of your products. You invest in them. And once again, last night was another great example of why that's the case. All right, we hit that at 239-1070. Pacers on the road in Portland. I'm telling you, Portland's not any good, but that's going to be a tough back-to-back. They haven't won there since, what did I say a little bit earlier? 2007, I think? Actually, I looked that up. My bad, too, because Andrew had said, you heard that this morning with Kevin Bowen and Mark Dykton. I did not hear it this morning with Kevin Bowen. I have no good excuse as to why I didn't. I feel bad about that. But I did do a little bit of show prep and research a little bit earlier. How about that? Shocking. Hoosiers haven't won in Madison, Wisconsin since 1998. How many of you out there are going to be like me are going to make that call? As Rod Stewart, James, once famously said, not Young Turks, not some guys had all the luck, not Maggie May, but tonight's the night. Tonight is the night to break the curse. I know. It's crazy talk. The situation, how they lost at Purdue, how they have looked. You can't count on these guys to really do anything except disappoint. But just like Rod Stewart said, James, tonight's the night. Everything's going to be all right for the first time since 1998. Tonight's the night. What were we doing in 97, 98? What was the Hot 100? Can we just do the Hot 100 songs as re-entries from 1998, some of them? Can we do that? Was Too Close by Next in there? Talking about dancing at school dances and getting a little bit aroused? You know what I'm talking? The Next and Too Close, that song?
Well, I was 2 in 1998, so not really.
You're making it hard for me. That was kind of a play on words right there.
I got the
I think the play on words was, it's really hard for me to dance with you without feeling this way. And then, the other part of that was actually feeling that way. In 1998. By the way, more legitimacy regarding the Blazers, and our good friend Chris Denary, who is the voice of the Pacers, says the Blazers won 4 straight, 8 of 9. 4 straight wins versus Milwaukee. Orlando, 2 straight versus Phoenix. I watched them last week. I think it was Milwaukee's second of a back-to-back. Maybe it was last Tuesday night in Portland. And all their young guys, remember how much against Shaedon Sharpe I was? Shaedon Sharpe was outstanding in that game. So, Denary is right. This is going to be incredibly tough. The second of a back-to-back coming up later on tonight in Portland. But again, in Whiskey tonight, Madison, Wisconsin. Tonight's the night, Rod Stewart. I expect a re-entry. And then everything from 1998. Last time that IU won in Madison, everything on the charts in the Hot 100 from that point in time. Boilermakers on the road in Iowa City. That can be tricky to navigate as well. Sometimes Iowa comes out there and will shoot the lights out because they have shooters, but they will struggle. I don't know if the numbers will really bear this out, but sometimes they struggle defensively. But they'll run you up and down the floor. This is one where you want your point guard, and you expect your point guard to be the catalyst for the entirety of the game. And that's what Boilermaker fans are hoping. Rob Blackham is going to join us. We'll talk that up coming up at the bottom of the hour. Tony East will join us coming up at the top of the 4 o'clock hour. I am done with all the Pacer trading away players chatter. Done with it. Trade deadline's coming up on Thursday. I will riot if they blank around with this team right now. I'm not suggesting they're going to win the finals, but it is a needless venture. It is a slap in the face of you, the fans, if they blank around with this. Don't do it. And I like these guys so much. Don't make me go off on Kevin and Chad and Ted, our good friend Ted Wu. Every time I think about Ted Wu, I think about that Jeffrey Osborne song. Don't do it. I think we all understand that. All right, Super Bowl week lead up. You had the ridiculous Super Bowl press conferences that have taken place. We will get into that. Myles Garrett yesterday wants to be traded. Another NBA trade today. And our good friend Tucker Barnhart, I think, is going to join us later on this week. He is going to be a part of trying to make the Texas Rangers squad. So he's going to be heading out west to Arizona to work out with the Rangers. I think later on this week, Tuck's going to join us, so we shall be ready for that. This show's on the road coming up on Thursday at Tom's Watch Bar downtown. Love to see you down there. But busy stuff coming up. All right, James, you ready to go? Quick break. Anything to give away? I know I saw this too. For those of you, I don't think we gave any of these away on this show. I gave away a 4-pack on the JMV Takeover. I don't know what the hell happened with the Totally Tubular Fest. But the Totally Tubular Fest got flushed, I think. Got canceled. So it was Men Without Hats and Animotion. The motels. Right. What are we going to do without our Right Said Fred this summer? What? So sorry about that. I don't think we ever gave anything away on that on this show. But I saw that news a little bit earlier today, and I was bummed out about it. Luka probably this weekend with the Lakers against the Pacers for his return. That and more coming up. All right, 239-1070. Email address is jmv1075thefan.com. Inside the AAA Membership Lounge, become a member today. That's AAA.com. Get in there with everybody, too. I know I'm rocking the Farmall shirt. Shout out to our farmers out there. McCormick Farmall. You big tractor fan over there, James? You know anything about tractors? A lot of tatted guys roll around on tractors?
I mean, there are some. Farmers do get tattoos as well.
Farmall, everybody. It's International Harvester. Got that right? Straight in the app, HD Radio. Don't go anywhere. Rob Blackman, voice of the Boilers on the other side in Iowa City. It's 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
JMV.
You take drugs, Danny?
Every day. Good. So what's the problem?
I don't know.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
All right, IU fans, tonight's the night. Stay away from my back door. Stay away from my window. Because tonight's the night, says Rod Stewart. Tonight's the night to break the curse, to break the string, to break the streak. Since 1998, IU has not won in Madison, Wisconsin. Is this still the Kohl Center up there? Or did they sell the name? I kid. Is this Kohl's? James, you go to Kohl's? How much you pay for jeans at Kohl's? Levi's are $69, I believe, at Kohl's.
I don't really go to Kohl's all that often.
Do you buy Levi's or Sonoma or Rustler or Wrangler or Lee? What do you buy?
Levi's, generally.
Levi's, huh? All right, tell me this. Casey Simpson says, is this the first year for Defensive Player of the Month award? Is that why you can't find it anywhere?
It might be, because the website I was looking at only had Andrew Nemhard listed for the Pacers, but it had a whole list of other awards that they've won.
See, if Kristen Airy is still listening right now, he could tell us. Double back to that in a second. I mentioned tonight's the night, Madison, Wisconsin. How about in Iowa City, Carver Hawkeye? And the voice of the Boilermakers, Rob Blackman, got a big one on the road for Purdue coming up later on tonight. Hello, R. How are you?
Hey, John. The one thing I like about being a Kohl's customer is they constantly are sending you these 30% off coupons like all the time. So I'm always cashing those things in. Just my 2 cents on that topic, by the way.
I am a big fan of the kind of the insulated long sleeve shirts. You know what I mean? Talking about, and I buy them by the truckload there. So you're right.
You know what I buy socks, underwear, and undershirts, T-shirts. I buy a ton of those at Kohl's for some reason. Those are my go-to items when I go to Kohl's.
I bought a pair of boots, a razor, and 2 pair of jeans, and 3 shirts. Not today, not recently, but I don't know, last month or so. So I'm a big fan of Kohl's right here. I am.
Yeah, and then you get the 30% off coupon, and it's like, hey man, that's a pretty good deal.
How about that? We all need that type of deal. Is that the cheapest place to go for Levi's? Do we know?
Well, I don't wear Levi's, so I'm not sure. I don't know.
Mention this. So Purdue on the road, that's where you are, in Iowa City coming up later on tonight. And what occurs to me is, man, Iowa can have some moments of high-level greatness because they can score the basketball, but some other moments to where they can, let everybody down, including the head coach, Fran McCaffrey, and that's the moment in which he turns purple and things may be going haywire. I happen to think that starts, like everything else does with Purdue, is Braden Smith, the catalyst at work on the road in what is going to be a tough environment and a tough game coming up later on tonight. That's, to me, where it starts.
Yeah, and his taking care of the basketball, which the good news for Purdue, they've been so much better and improved in that area. I was just running the numbers for the month of January. Purdue played 9 games in January. Purdue averaged 9 turnovers a game. So if that number can stay right around 8 or 9 a game, Purdue's going to be in business because you're right. Iowa can score the ball. Scoring is not a problem for them. They're the 6th highest scoring team in the country, 85, just under 86 points a game. They have no problem scoring the ball. Where they have struggled traditionally, and the same is true this year, is keeping other people from scoring. I mean, if you just look at the Big Ten games this year, they're giving up 85 points a game. So imagine that. They average 85 a game, but in Big Ten games only, they're allowing 85 points a game. So if Purdue can just take care of the ball, one would assume Purdue would be good enough in half-court offense or transition offense, either way, to at least get some quality looks at the basket. But, yes, I would agree. That's where it will start tonight. If Purdue is careless with the ball at the point guard position or any other position, because you just don't want to waste possessions here against these guys. Because, again, the numbers would tell you you're probably going to have success on offense if you'll just take care of the ball. You're probably going to get quality shots. You're probably going to score a lot of points. I know that's a lot of probablys, but it all starts with taking care of the ball. And yes, if Purdue can do that, then Purdue's probably in good shape tonight.
Owen Freeman, nearly 17 points per game. Peyton Sanford is a guy that's around 16. Honestly, I think they have 4 dudes in double figures for the most part. Offense is something that rarely has been an issue for this Hawkeye squad.
Well, I think you may not know this, John, because it just came out yesterday, but Owen Freeman is out for the season.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't see he's out for the season. Is he really?
Hand injury.
When did that happen?
Injury. Yeah, well, it came out, the news came out like late afternoon yesterday. So
man, I must have missed that. My apologies then.
So, I mean, look, he's their leading scorer and leading rebounder and their leading shot blocker. Now, I would say this, even though he has all those numbers I just mentioned, Iowa is a perimeter-oriented team, and I know Freeman was their center, but quite frankly, he really wasn't your traditional low-post center.
Yeah.
So is it going to affect them? Sure, it'll affect them, but I don't think it affects them as much as if, say, Peyton Sanford was lost for the season. Now, you lose that guy for the season, they're in big trouble. But I think they can overcome this Owen Freeman thing, again, just because they're so perimeter-oriented and they love to shoot the three. They average 10 threes a game, makes a game. So no Owen Freeman certainly changes things a little bit for them. But, again, they're such a perimeter-oriented team anyway. I don't know how much different, quite frankly, it makes it for them.
I think about it in this fashion. He was a guy that I thought about, like yesterday I talked at length about Brooks Barnhizer at Northwestern from knowing him and knowing how meaningful he was to Northwestern and him losing. I just think that to me, Freeman was much the heart of that Hawkeye team as Brooks was, in different ways Brooks was for Chris Collins and Northwestern, but that's kind of how I view them both. I mean, that derails a lot of things, right? That is, as far as scoring the basketball team-wise and what you have to overcome. That's about as tough as anything you're going to get, especially with Northwestern and Iowa, I guess, Rob, in this case with these injuries. That's tough.
Well, and first off, man, I hated to see that Barnhizer news because he's such a great kid, great family. And such a competitor. I mean, and of course he was, a Lafayette kid, went to Lafayette Jeff High School. So obviously I think the Purdue fans were always rooting for him. But, yeah, back to Freeman. So, look, he's not your traditional 5. He's more of a three-point shooting 5, and he shoots 31% from 3. So you take him out of the equation. Now they're probably playing, one would assume, either Riley Mulvey or Dembele tonight, who are traditional low-post players. Right. They are not three-point shooters. So instead of that 5 outlook with, 5 guys who can all shoot the 3, again, I'm assuming here, as soon as I say this, watch one of those guys knock in 6 or 7 threes tonight, but I don't think that's very likely. It does change how they're going to look offensively because now they're more of a 4 outlook, 4-round 1 with more of a traditional center. So, look, tough on Iowa because you got to make that adjustment on the fly. Obviously, Freeman's really good. I mean, he was a Big Ten co-freshman of the year last year. But from a Purdue standpoint, more worried about Purdue because this is such a big game in the grand scheme of things. If Purdue can find a way to win tonight and then, get on that plane with everyone having their phone turned on rooting for UCLA to beat Michigan State tonight, I mean, it's very likely, again, if Purdue can take care of business, that, when that plane lands at Purdue here in a few hours, Purdue's in first place in the Big Ten standings. So that's why it's so big for Purdue, regardless of if Owen Freeman's going to play or not.
Yeah, the other part about that is the leading rebounder he was, I believe, on that team as well.
Correct.
And that's a team, I think, outside of him that probably struggles a bit on either glass. So that's
oh, well, yeah,
that is
and
tough.
The numbers back it up. I mean, if you just look at the Big Ten numbers, and I have all this in front of me, by the way. It's not like I'm doing this from memory, but, they're minus 8.5.
Yeah, sure.
Minus 8.5 per game on the glass, one of the worst rebounding teams in the Big Ten. So, yeah, the one actually legitimate rebounder they did have is now out of the lineup, so that certainly affects them.
So Rob Blackman, voice of the Boilermakers, he's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Some takeaways from Friday night, and I thought IU looked good basically until they didn't make plays down the stretch, but you have to tip the cap too on really both ends to the Boilers, and Trey Kaufman-Wren has been outstanding basically for the season and got it done with a lengthy half hook maybe a free throw line half hook of sorts right there. That was a little old school that he threw in there down the stretch.
That's a little bit further than his comfort zone, he would admit to you. But the fact that it went in, I suppose you don't have to worry about yourself with that. But
did he get pushed out? Is that what happened? Did he kind of get physicaled out of where he wanted to go?
When you go back and look at it, what Ballo did, something they had not been doing, was he doubled the ball screen. So they doubled Braden Smith there for just a second. And by him doubling the ball, and so he doubles the ball off the ball screen, and then he backs off. And when he backed off so far up the lane, or so deep, I should say, in the lane defensively, that really Trey's only open position to go to catch that pass was right around the free throw line extended area. So that's why it ended up making it such a little bit more difficult shot than it normally would be in that little pick and roll action there. But yeah, that's exactly what happened. But man, what a shot from him! And I was talking to Coach Painter actually about this at shoot around. And for those that will listen to the broadcast, it's part of our pregame conversation. But the fact that Purdue won that game and shot so poorly from the three-point line, 2 of 13, it's probably the most amazing statistic from all of this kind of January success that Purdue has had is how poorly Purdue has shot the ball from three. I mean, outside of the game against Nebraska where Purdue made 19 threes, Purdue's actually been pretty bad, quite frankly, from the three-point line. Purdue, here's one for you, John. Purdue is 3-0 this year, 3-0 when they shoot less than 20% from the three-point line, which makes no sense, especially for a team like Purdue who doesn't have the traditional big guy that they've had with Zach Edey. You would think if you're under 20% from three and you're a team that is constructed the way Purdue is, there's no way you're winning games. But it's quite the contrary. Purdue's won all of those games when they've been under 20% from the three-point line. So it's kind of a give and take thing. You're happy Purdue, as a Purdue fan, you're happy they're finding ways to win games, even when they're shooting as poorly as they are right now from the three-point line. But you also kind of hope this doesn't continue, because one would think this trend is eventually going to catch up to you. You can't keep shooting in the 20 percentiles from the three-point line and win consistently, I don't think. So you really would like to get that three-point shooting corrected and not have to worry about, winning all these grinders here with poor three-point shooting.
Really quick, and I got to run here. Rob Blackman, voice of the Boilermakers, with us. Were you surprised, and I don't know if you asked Matt this or not, I kind of want to ask him before they play IU again, that Trey Galloway, I wasn't surprised that he was so efficient going to his right, getting to his right hand to the glass as he was, but were you surprised Purdue defensively allowed that as much as they did on Friday night?
Yes, especially because if you go back and watch it, and I was with our coaches in the locker room after the game, and I was listening to them talk about it. It really wasn't complicated stuff. It was just a single ball screen to get Trey, coming down the right side of the paint, and it was working every single time. And look, good for Woody, because in typical of an NBA guy with an NBA background, you watch a lot of NBA basketball. When those NBA coaches find something that works, they just keep going to it. And they just go to the well. They'll do it 100 times if they have to because it works. And so IU just kept going to that same action. And the one time Purdue actually went under that first screen, he just stepped back and made a three-pointer from the left wing. So Purdue had no answer for that very simple action in the second half of that game. And Galloway was just torching Purdue, just torching them.
At Rob Blackman, voice of the Boilermakers, later on tonight in Iowa City, and we'll see what the heck goes down. It's going to be a tough atmosphere, going to be a tough game, and we'll see what happens. Rob, I always appreciate it. Have a great call. Tell Buckets we said hello, okay?
I will do that. Thanks, John.
You got it. Rob Blackman of the Boilermaker Radio Network on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Some things, sometimes I get texts, James, and I wish I could share them with everybody, but I can't. This is a good one right here. I wish I could, but I cannot. Quick break. Tony East, top of the hour. Solidified it last night. Why you don't mess with the roster, even if you don't believe they have a chance of going to the NBA Finals, why you don't mess with it. Talk about that and more, and trade deadline stuff with Tony. The first season of the NBA Defensive Player of the Month, and Andrew Nemhard for January can be celebrated for that. Pacers, the second of a back-to-back in Portland later on tonight. Coverage here on The Fan. We'll get to that, and Greg Rakestraw joins us. I believe this is a Tuesday night of girls sectional play that is underway. That and more with Greg after 5. Don't go anywhere. 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
in your face and calls you a I want you to be nice.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Not since 1998 has this song been on the charts, James. Can you name it?
I mean, I can because I'm looking at
you're
the
looking
title
at it?
right
I guess
here.
you are looking at it. Pissing the night away. We can't have IU basketball pissing the night away tonight in Madison because for the first time since this song, Chumbawamba and Tub Thumping, was in the Hot 100. What was it for the year in the Hot 100? Does it say up there? Was it top 5, top 10?
Let me take a look here.
Tub Thumping.
It says it was 35.
35 for the year, huh?
Yep.
Be higher than that. IU wins for the first time tonight in Madison since 1998, since that song was in the Hot 100. Who's with me on that? Jason writes this, JMV, I know why you think IU will win tonight, because this bizarro team full of knuckleheads play better on the road than they do at home. I think they're 2-4 on the road, so I don't know how true that is. But it being a bizarro team, yes. Yes. Are they going to have the capabilities of closing? I know that this is wild. And it's also going to test some fandom out there. It's going to test you, IU fans that are kind of weighing your options on, well, wait a minute, if they win tonight, will that prolong the agony of Mike Woodson and his tenure here? Let me reassure you that it most certainly won't. I just think tonight is going to be that night. I've never said that about this matchup, never said this before in any year. For some reason, playing off that Boilermaker game on Friday, I don't think, like a lot of teams, it can be flushed. I just think this team is, for lack of a better description, whack. Perfect environment to put something together unforeseen by many, that is incredibly whack. That's also a term from 1998, whack. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. Pacers second of a back-to-back. It's in Portland coming up later on tonight. They haven't won there since 2007. Won in Salt Lake City for the first time since Gobert and Miles got into it last night. We'll talk about that and more on the trade deadline with Tony East. We've got Greg Rakestraw after 5, and you, my friend, do not go anywhere. It's 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Special message for all the kids watching at home.
Stay out of trouble. 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
This is not who I think it is you're not playing. There's like a particular artist that you're not allowed to play. That's not it, is it?
I have no idea. I picked
it sounds like it right there.
I picked a name off of the Wikipedia list.
All right, then. Well,
this
not gonna mention it. It's not who I think it is it?
Public announcement.
Well, that's part of who I think it is, but maybe not altogether.
There's someone in public announcement that I should.
Yeah, probably. He's in prison right now, and I don't think anybody plays his music.
I didn't realize he was ever part of a group, if that's who I'm thinking of.
He was prior to. I don't know if he's a part of this. I don't know if he once was. I don't know if they're no longer. I don't know.
It's not really my genre of music.
No,
so
I know.
Wouldn't know.
I know. Yeah. Hi there. Very awkward return, James. Thank you very much.
You just said top 100 from 1998.
It's not your fault. It's not your fault. I might be wrong about that, though. Maybe there's there once upon a time was a connection, and the moment I heard that, I thought maybe there was there, but I could be wrong. It could be.
Oh, so it's a different. Okay, I was thinking this was a different guy, but it is someone who is excommunicado.
Not good at all right there. Just strike that from your member bank, everybody. I don't think anybody's allowed to play that anymore.
I thought it was the guy currently awaiting trial, not the one who'd already been convicted.
No. He's already there. Yeah, already there. I don't even think that's are those or Diddy songs allowed anymore too? Could you play Diddy and Mace and all that? Probably not.
I'd probably try to avoid it.
Now, Lauren tells me this, and Lauren would know that the person we're talking about was not a part of public announcement at that time. He was solo then, so you're
safe. We're safe.
Well done, Lauren. I lean on Lauren for the information right there. I heard it, and I go, well, wait a minute. That's probably not good because obviously there are a great deal of sound similarities right there. Public announcement. So you can't go back to the early 90s and it's too bad because there was some really good stuff in the early 90s that no longer would be allowed in this world right there. Too bad. Damon writes this, I just got out of an interview. Did I miss Purdue talk with Rob Blackman? Guess it is the podcast. Yeah, Rob just joined me. Podcast 1075thefan.com. Purdue, Iowa City coming up later on tonight. That's, I believe, a Peacocker, right, tonight? Peacock for Purdue, Peacock for IU. IU on the road at Wisconsin. They're going to snap that streak for the first time since 98. And that public announcement song was in then the Hot 100. Meantime, a couple of streaks. Hopefully another one for the Pacers later on tonight on the road in Portland. We'll talk Pacers right now. Tony East joins us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So last night they win in Utah and Salt Lake City for the first time since Gobert and Miles had that fight. That was significant, especially since they played awful for most of the game. And now tonight, Tony, they're going to go after something they have not done in Portland at the Moda Center since 2007, which will also match the fact that IU is going to go to the Kohl Center and win for the first time since 1998, right? I've got that feeling that it's all going to come together for these couple of days. What do you say?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know why Portland's been such a problem for the Pacers. I mean, last year their game there was like the most exciting game of the season for so many fans. Siakam's first game, Halliburton returned. Those two looked good together, and they still somehow lost that game. Maybe they're just cursed in Portland somehow.
Yeah, well, if you watch Portland play recently, they've looked good.
They're awesome.
Yeah.
They're awesome.
They have looked good, and at least for the short term, Tony, a lot of what they're trying to do with young athleticism has clicked, unlike it had up until the past couple of weeks, for sure.
Yeah, Scoot Henderson looks like terrific all of a sudden. It came out of nowhere, too. I mean, I tend to give most top picks, especially point guards, like a good amount of time to figure out the whole NBA thing, but Scoot was making me a little worried. He looked really rough at times, but Yeah, he's been really great recently. I don't know what the Blazers are doing, but they don't start any of their young guys. But when you've won 8 of 9, you don't have to apologize. So this is actually a very tough game, although Portland did play an overtime one last night too. So expect some sluggish teams. Thank you, NBA, for a great product tonight. We're all very excited.
I believe it goes back to 07. Denary reminds me they won in 2021, but I think that was a COVID type of game, was it not?
No, there were fans there. I remember it was a big deal that they broke the streak. Dame was still playing there at the time, I believe.
Was it really? But I thought it was a COVID type of game the last time they won there. That's why I didn't.
It was different from arena to arena, so maybe you're right. I'm not sure.
We are talking about Oregon here. I thought things were a little bit different than they were. I could be wrong.
I can't say I remember that game too well. I do remember Dame playing, though. Like, it was a decent win at the time for a team that needed some decent wins at the time.
Yeah, it's just it has been. We'll just say this: bottom line, whether it's COVID or whatever happened back in 2021, it has been a difficult place to play, and we saw that last night and how difficult it has been in Salt Lake City. And it was far from a masterpiece. It was not artistic, but the Pacers did win in a fashion that proved to us a lot of things, that they can win ugly. And we certainly wouldn't have said that a year ago, and that they have two guys that have been involved in a lot of trade rumor mill activity that in no way, shape, or form should be shipped off this roster by Thursday.
Yeah, 2 wins in a row, really, right? Like the Hawks game they played pretty badly too, I would say, for most of that game, and they won both, and they were, losing in crunch time at both those games and found a way to win, and no one is or should be impressed by beating the Hawks and Jazz. The Hawks had lost 8 in a row or whatever after that night, but we all know that the Pacers of even earlier this season lose that game all the time, right? They are showing the common trope of, good teams find a way to win games even when they're playing bad, and they beat Detroit on opening night when that happened, and then since then I don't think they had won a single notable game in which they played truly poorly. They played okay against the Hawks, I would say, but they were awful last night, truly atrocious for most of that game. When it was 101-89, I thought it was over. They had not played well all night, and there were 6 minutes to go, and their only center that was even available to play had probably his worst game as a Pacer to that point. I thought they were dead in the water. I will give them credit for escaping Utah with a win despite that, and that is something new for them to show, that they can find a way even on their worst nights, and they've done it now twice in a row. The problem is they've had 2 just dreadful performances consecutively and are about to play the best team of their last 3 games, and then they play a very good LA team, and then they play maybe Luka Doncic. So they've got to start playing better, but they are not going to apologize for winning both of these games.
It's, again, Tony East on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I think it's a good thing because in the past, this team could not win ugly. That's exactly what they had to do last night. But I would agree with you, a little bit more consistent play. And it has been weird, much like with Atlanta back on Saturday night or last night. You would get one aspect of this team that would be playing well and the other wouldn't, and then the other would, and then the one that was playing well wouldn't. You never could really put all this together at once last night. And a lot of people would say, well, it's the first of a Western road swing. It's in the mountains of Salt Lake City, all this. But this has been kind of a theme here very recently. What do you, in this case, view that as to the reason why?
I actually don't know. And you know what I see that the most in is every game, or not every game, but a lot of games they've been going up big, 16, 20, whatever, and then they blow the lead, right? And that's happened a lot to them. I've been asking some players about it, and they give the answer I expect, but should probably be better about asking, which is, if we knew why we were blowing these leads, we wouldn't do it. Duh, right? But the problem I have with the Pacers blowing all these leads, as I try to think about it, is it seems like every time it happens, it's for a different reason, right? It's not the same lineup. It's not the same on-court issue. It's not the same time of the game. It's hard to pinpoint any one reason why they have these inconsistent stretches, even in these games that they're winning. They were playing a little better, I think, in early January than they are right now. And I think it's just inconsistency. And, we know how the NBA is. No big lead to save. Ask the Pacers last night, right? They were down double digits in the fourth quarter and were able to escape with the win, right? The opposite of the problem they've normally had. But in some ways it's not. They were really inconsistent in that game in Utah, and it didn't really matter who was on the floor. They had random stretches where they were kind of good and random stretches where they were pretty bad. And, it's good for them that they're winning and learning how to win when they don't have it on a given night. But it's bad that they've had, I would say, 2 weeks now, 2.5 weeks really, since before that Spurs game. They had 2 games against the Cavs that were kind of like this, where they've had just within every game they're playing some up and down stretches. They had some great 48-minute performances in late December and early January, like the most you felt them be consistent for a full game. And I would say that that's kind of faded away recently, and that's okay if they're still winning, and it's good for them to work through this with, this version of the team, I suppose. But I do think it's a little probably concerning to them how inconsistent, even from, minute to minute or stretch to stretch, they've been in some of these games.
It's Tony East covers the Pacers, Forbes Sports, WTHR.com, Locked On Pacers, The Next Hoops, all that, and then some. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. We learned today, and I didn't even know this was a new deal, but the Defensive Player of the Month going to Andrew Nembhard. Speaking of something that we have never would have called here, was Pacer player being Defensive Player of the Month, which, again, highlights exactly his level of importance, regardless of really what takes place in the box score for this team.
100%. I cover them every day and did not know about this award. It might be new this calendar year. It might be new this season. I never had reason to pay attention to it for the Pacers, I suppose. But, well deserved, right? Like, even going back to last month or December, actually, so really a month and a half ago, so much chatter when people would ask me about the Pacers turnaround, I would kind of just say, it's kind of, a lot of it's kind of Nembhard, right? Like, since he returned, their defense has gotten way better. He guards the other team's best perimeter player in the starting five, and it doesn't matter what type of guard that is, he can give them fits. And he did it to Cade, he did it to Dame, and he did it to whatever Cavs player he was guarding. He did it to a lot of guys over the course of a month. And when he had a full month to play in January, I thought he was terrific on that end of the floor. And there's so many games where it feels like when they were playing poorly or losing their grip on the game, the Carlisle adjustment that worked was just, put in Andrew Nembhard, right? That'll save things. He's steady on offense too, but his defense has been so good for this team. Like, I think his on-off net rating for defense is like 10 points per 100 possessions in the positive. They're way better with him out there than not. And they were like a legitimately good defensive team for a whole month, which who could have seen that coming for the Pacers? But it happened, and it kept happening. It never really wore off. They had a little bit of opponent shooting luck in there, but he was their best defender for a month where they were a good defensive team, a worthy winner of this new award. And I think that showing his value in a way that they should not consider moving him anytime soon. He's one of their most important players, certainly. And
really, defensively is how they won last night. I know there were some moments early on where, obviously there was you saw a struggle defensively with Jordan Clarkson was kind of working him with 3 consecutive shots, and then it all kind of settled down because he's so streaky. But let's face it, Tony, I mean, this Pacer team really did win down the stretch because of the defense and deflections and turning the Jazz over, which led to opportunities that they were able to cash in on. That's basically defensively why they won last night.
Yeah, they don't usually win like that, but they certainly did. And they've had multiple defensive wins, I would say, in the last month or so, which again speaks to the changes that they've had since that just atrocious in every way Charlotte game where they didn't do anything well, and they talked and had meetings after that game about how they need to be better as a team on that end of the floor, and they've really responded to it. I give them a lot of credit. But, yeah, they got smoked on the glass last night. They shot terrible. Like, what do you have in a game like that? You have, decent rim scoring and defense, and they certainly picked it up late against a team that, isn't particularly awesome at any kind of offensive thing. But, they held Detroit to 100. They held Philly to barely over 100. Then they held San Antonio to just under 100. That was all in like a week, right? That was all in a really short amount of time. They really had a bunch of defensive wins in a row during last month as Nembhard won this award. They had, the Warriors, I think, were under 100. I can't remember exactly what they finished with. Like, they've had a lot of games that they won very clearly because they defended very well. And I can't believe that that's what the Pacers are. And it's not even like their offense is bad or like they've changed their identity or anything. They just have figured out how to guard. It's made them way better.
Tony East talking Pacers and more. Pacers on the road in Portland later on tonight. Coverage is right here on The Fan. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. And one of the original points I wanted to make when I brought you on the show is how this team, it is necessary with both Miles, and that's something we all knew, but Obi Toppin's been mentioned in a lot of trade possibilities, and I think we have seen, certainly again recently, why he is so important to this team. You got to stay where you are if you're the Pacers, and if I'm a fan and either type of deal takes place, I would be irate.
Yeah, this is a textbook stand pat kind of team, maybe like a very small salary dump thing, but it's real. Like, they're good, right? They're fourth in the East and have won the, I think, third best record in the league since that Hornets game middle of last month, right? They're legitimately very good, and they're really close to the tax. Like, that is exactly the type of team that usually doesn't do anything significant. Not saying they can't or shouldn't. Maybe something big in terms of a consolidation trade opens up, but Toppin, I mean, fits very well with their style. He probably fits better on the Pacers than any other team in the league and is a good locker room fit in terms of his personality. Like, that's the kind of guy you like to have around, and he makes decent money for a backup four, but is good for them. And Turner, I I know you're the same way, but I've just never, ever, ever understood this. Every time a report comes out, I always just think it's speculation from people who work for other teams or agents or scouts or whoever, because unless they're getting another center back who is as good or better as Turner, trading him makes no sense for the Pacers. Why would they sell him for picks? They're good now, right? It never has made sense. And last night, Thomas Bryant
was a mess. He was a mess last night.
Yes. I overlapped with him at IU. Love Thomas Bryant. He has played some of the best basketball of his career for the Pacers, right? And he stunk until the final 5 minutes of that game, right? They were putting in Jarris Walker, Siakam front court combo. They never do that. And they did it a lot last night because they needed any size in the front court to not get killed, because Bryant was just really struggling. One of the worst games he's played, probably the worst game he's played as a Pacer. And that's not to say he's bad. He's played very well for them, but he can't play that many minutes. He can't start, or else he would have at any point in his career for a good team. Like, they need Miles, and Toppin was their backup five last night and gives them a lot. I'm not saying that these guys are like maybe long for the Pacers forever. Maybe Turner is, maybe Toppin is, but right this second, given how their season's going, given what it looks like their financial construction is, I mean, anything of major significance, unless they're getting a huge upgrade in their rotation, I just can't really see them doing it. It's a really tough year for them, and every kind of game they have like that just shows why they have these guys and why they pay them what they do. They're good and they all have value.
Yeah, this team is both sides drastically different without Miles, and none of that makes any sense whatsoever. Not even now. It hasn't made sense to me, and it sure as hell will not make sense to me whatsoever. And I continuously get, it's like, if Miles would have had a game like Bryant last night, can you imagine what my X feed would look like too? In people around here, it's a small fraction percentage-wise of what it used to be, but there are still some major idiots out here that just simply do not get his importance to this team, and really all you have to do is ask the most important players on this team where his level is, and they'll tell you.
Yeah, he's a great fit with their stars, first of all. Like, Siakam has cited that as part of why he identified the Pacers as a team he might want to go to, which is already sort of telling about what Turner is. And people always say, he's not as good of a defender as he used to be. And I'm like, yeah, but he's twice the offensive player he used to be. And the other thing that's fascinating about this is, they love the way he fits in their system and the way that he can do all this stuff. And last night I said this on my podcast, that it made me so frustrated to see all this on my feed. Like, during the game, people were like, this game really shows the value of Miles Turner. I'm like, this game? How did you not see it all season?
Yeah.
Like, he's been playing really well the whole year. I don't get why his absence made it so obvious to people that he's good and is better than the backup. And again, no offense to Thomas Bryant. That was definitely his worst game of the season. But, I mean, Turner's been very clearly this.
It's a small percentage, but there's still big idiots out there that wouldn't know anything. Would not like. I get this horse's ass seriously from Kentucky, which is there's huge irony there, I guess. But I get this horse's ass that tells me all the time about how he can't post, and that's why you don't want. And I'm thinking, do you watch basketball nowadays? They have one guy that has been top 8 all season long in the low post. You cannot have two. Cleveland has two bigs. They don't have two post guys either. Nobody Nobody does. That's how the Pacers play. That's how they thrive. That's why they play at a high level. And just some of these clowns, very small percentage of idiots out there, simply don't get it.
Well, and Siakam posts if they really love post-ups and think that's so important. And, like, even the Cavs, like Mobley and Allen don't really ever post up. Jared Allen goes inside because he ducks in and can score over
rim runs.
Like,
that's all he does is rim run, which is essentially what Miles does.
Yes, and that's like fine. That's still important for NBA teams, but like no one really posts up in the not nobody, but it's very infrequent that a team actually does post ups anymore, right? And I get wanting to see a big man go inside. Like there are definitely times when Turner should, when he has a massive size advantage on a switch, and he's gotten a lot better at that in his career. When I talk about his offense getting better, I think that has been a bigger change than his shooting volume or anything. Is that he's actually good at punishing smalls inside, and it's legitimately a weapon for him. And that also makes him good with Halliburton, and he has great chemistry and feel for when to roll versus when to pop. I mean, he's just always been good, and I've always thought he was good. And I guess games like last night make it even more obvious, but I always think it's obvious, and their star players think it's obvious. And so unless they're getting a better center in a trade or someone with a long-term contract at the 5, it just makes no sense to move him to me. So it's very perplexing the way he's talked about.
Hey, Tony, do you think ultimately the Pacers and the Simons just go ahead and go into whatever apron of the luxury tax is and go with this? Or will they address this at a later date?
Yeah, I don't think so this year. I mean, teams this close who are good tend to avoid it if they can. We just saw the frickin' Dallas Mavericks get out, right? Like, I mean, that was a stupid trade for a million reasons, but the Clippers got out. They're good in the West. The Sixers are probably going to get out if they could trade KJ Martin. Like, if you're close to the tax, you just don't, right? Unless there's like an insane, absurd upgrade that you just can't miss on, and I don't see that being out there for this Pacers groups. But next year will be a different conversation, and I still probably think that given how expensive the Suns and the Celtics are going to be, most teams will try to stay under the tax next year. But next year, if you're a very small taxpayer, the penalty you actually have to pay becomes a lot smaller if you're just barely over the tax. And that is something I think the Pacers could explore is it worth it for them to be barely over? They lose the distribution from the tax-paying teams, which hurts a lot. In fact, that's probably the bigger reason most teams will try to stay under. But I think next year is much more plausible than this year, and that actually is probably good timing for them given Turner's reality and that the cap's going to go up and potentially give them some exceptions to add talent next year. So I'd be more on the Pacers should start paying the tax clock next year if I'm them, and I'm really dying to do it at some point. But also, if they don't have a good postseason, it's going to be even hard for them to say, hey, Herb, we got to now's the time, let's go. So it might depend on how the rest of the season goes, too, even though it does look like right now that they are good and they have some juice to what they're doing.
Tony, in closing here, Pacers going to see Luka making his debut coming up on Saturday in L.A.?
It seemed like the way the Lakers were talking today in that press conference and the way the reporting was coming out of Dallas that is possible. I mean, that would be crazy, right? That would be such a highly anticipated game. And I think the Lakers are going to be really good now with both those guys, so I'm really looking forward to seeing them play. And if it just happens to overlap with my job, that's great. And I hope that the Lakers are awesome so we can make fun of Nico Harrison forever because that was just the most comically silly trade I've ever seen.
See, do
you get it?
I do because it's the Lakers and people bend the knee to the Lakers. And you look at the history and how the Lakers will make marks. I know Kobe aside here with the deal that they made on draft night for him, but you go back to Magic to Worthy to bringing in Kareem, all this. It seems like that everybody, for whatever reason, decade after decade, will bow to the Lakers and ultimately give them what is necessary for them to view themselves as a top-of-the-line, high-level competitor. So
it is really crazy how many of the top 20 players in NBA history have played for that franchise, isn't it? I mean, It is just remarkable.
I mean, you look back at the history, and it's always somebody, maybe not to this level, but it's always somebody. I mean, even go back to Anthony Davis, forcing his way out originally, too. And it always seems that's what happens. So, to me. All right.
I could not believe that. I could not believe that. And most people in the league could not believe that. It's just crazy.
All right. No movement by Thursday is your prediction, correct?
Small movement is my prediction, like cut James Wiseman's salary kind of thing is my official guess, but no movement is probably just as likely as that, honestly.
Gotcha. Hey, Tony, it's always a pleasure, man. I appreciate you. You know that.
You got it. Yeah. If you need me for trade stuff later this week, I'll be around.
You know. Well, we'll be calling you. Don't say that. We'll have you on here every day.
Appreciate it, guys. Take care.
Tony East on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline right there. The next hoops, Forbes, THR, Locked On Pacers. By the way, Denary did tell me that the Saturday game, Laker game, simulcast on Channel 13 WTHR with FanDuel. 4 o'clock start for that. Evan Sherrill's in the house over there. Cluster Truck is here. Is your mic on? Mic's on?
Check.
Hi, Evan Sherrill. How you doing?
Hello, I'm
good
doing
to see
well.
you. Cluster Truck is back, correct?
Cluster Truck is back on the Fan, absolutely.
Look at you getting your hair all done up there and everything, too. What do we got in the bag here? Did we bring something that I'm allowed to eat?
I think so. By the way, the YouTube channel does not do it justice. You look very, very nice.
Thanks,
very
man.
good.
That's very nice of you to say right there. I'm 70 down right now.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
That's what a diet of tuna and cottage cheese will do for you. Nothing but
tuna
that.
and cottage cheese, baby.
Well, today we got salmon and roasted veggies. I hope that fits in.
I can do
very
salmon.
Tasty.
I do a lot of mostly tuna, so salmon definitely I can do.
It's very clean, very tasty. And then for James, I brought more of my speed. Nashville hot chicken sandwich,
Yes.
side of tater tots.
Speaking my language.
Cannot go wrong.
Cluster Truck, how can people get a hold of you, Evan, to get the great product you have in that bag right there?
Absolutely. Clustertruck.com. Download the app and use code FAN. Before it was the Fan. Now it's just FAN. F-A-N.
Gotcha.
Get $5 off orders of 20 or more.
And you've got how many locations?
We have 3 locations in Indianapolis. Downtown Indy, serving Fountain Square. East Side, downtown, of course. Got Broad Ripple location. And one up in Castleton, Keystone area that serves Carmel and Fishers as well.
Let me tell you this. Tonight's a hell of a night for Cluster Truck, guys. Seriously. Because you've got IU, Wisconsin. You got Purdue and Iowa. You got the Pacers in Portland. Right?
Facts.
Cluster Truck order for you and the entire family tonight.
And if I may, the Super Bowl, perfect time for Cluster Truck.
Yeah.
Game day tailgate special. 2 pizzas, 2 pounds of chicken strips, $29.99. Cannot beat it during the football season.
That's a deal right there.
Roasted vegetables, by the way, in there, huh? Like what kind of roasted? What kind of vegetables?
I believe it's potatoes and broccoli.
Potatoes and broccoli.
Red potatoes and broccoli.
I gotcha.
I believe.
I like it, but the salmon, man.
Yeah,
that's nice.
Salmon is very nice filet.
I saw some chickpea in there. What the hell's the chickpea thing that you guys have on?
Oh, we have a spiced chickpea bowl.
I can do that. I eat a lot of chickpeas.
Yes, that is very good. It comes with the house-made lemon tahini dressing.
Well, hell, I don't know what that is, but it sounds good right there.
Yeah, very, very good. And then we have an aloo chole masala as well. It's a chickpea Indian dish, and it's vegan.
Nice.
Very, very nice, yeah.
All right. Evan Sherrill is back again with Cluster Truck. Clustertruck.com. Use the promo code FAN. Correct. And do that tonight. Great night to have Cluster Truck at your place. Clustertruck.com. Promo code FAN. My brother, good to see you again.
Good to see you, too.
Welcome
Thank you guys
back,
for the
everybody.
time.
Evan Sherrill of Cluster Truck in studio with a brand new menu. You guys have cottage cheese on the menu?
We do not, but maybe I was thinking, obviously, no more fried bologna, so maybe the cottage cheese, some house-made cottage cheese
Get
needs
a
to be
little
the
cottage
move.
cheese, and we'll roll with that. Thank you, brother.
All right, thank you.
Evan Sherrill, clustertruck.com tonight, and the promo code is FAN. Greg Rakestraw, a little over 30 minutes away. Busy show so far. Busy show rest of the week. And Tom's Watts Bar downtown on Thursday. I'll explain and why IU has a breakthrough for the first time since 1998 coming up a little bit later on. Don't go anywhere. It's 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
It should be more natural, brother. It should flow out like this. Look, man, I ain't falling for no banana in my tailpipe.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Not since 1998. IU's been a winner in Madison. By the way, that Pacer win in Portland was 2021. That was no fans? Is that correct, James? Did you look that up? No fans in 2021? That's what I thought. So I'm not counting that, even though I guess you can count that. Pacers a winner last night in Salt Lake City, second of a back-to-back against the Portland Trail Blazers coming up later on tonight. Your coverage begins later on this evening right here on The Fan. Pat Boylan's got you covered for hopefully what is going to be a hellaciously fun, thrilling type of evening. Tip time, 10 o'clock, 9:30 coverage begins. Trying to notice exactly how the Pacers, or check that, the Blazers have been playing. Winners of 4 straight. They're just 21-29 on the season. But no doubt this team has played a hell of a lot better recently. Bucks, Magic, and the Suns twice. And really, you go back prior to that, a 10-point loss to the Thunder, and they have wins over the Magic, the Heat, the Bulls, the Hornets, but most recently 4 straight wins for Portland, 21-29 overall. 2021, during a COVID game with no fans, the Pacers won there. Before that, going back to 2007. So it has been difficult. No doubt about that. Brad Freeman writes this, JMV, IU hasn't beaten a ranked opponent since February the 25th, 2023. And I believe that was the Jalen Hood-Shafino game at Mackey, right? It's been a while. No doubt about that. Hey, Jim McCann, that's okay. It was just public announcement. That's okay. Good re-entry, though. Yeah, that's nice. JMV, this from Nick. Pacers got to back up the Brinks truck here. Fan interest is at what? A 10-year high right now? New millionaire, part owner, fever blowing up, Simon's pockets getting lined. I'm telling you, you could be on the verge, including both the Fever and the Pacers, in what I like to reference as a renaissance area here, or era, I should say here. Era. So you take full advantage of it. You can't sell your product when it's down and hang with them and then be so concerned about money to where you pull the plug on something that is clearly working. And really, no matter what happens later on tonight, they could lose, and I could be all salty in here coming up after 3 tomorrow. But no matter what happens, you have seen this team. You have seen the level in which it is capable of playing. As of right now, 28-20 on the season. That is good for the 4-hole in the Eastern Conference. The Knicks were a winner last night. The Knicks currently occupy number 3. They're a 33-game winner so far. So there's a little bit of space between the Pacers and the Knicks, but yeah, you got to roll with it, because if for nothing else, you owe it to the fans. You owe it to the fans that have cared about the recent history and a superstar wanting out. Actually, plural, superstars wanting out. Decisions to be made. Entertaining losses. Draft capital discussions. Timeline junk. All that nerdery that we utilized to pass the time for 3 hours in various shows around here. You're supposed to be working that for a reason, and that's what you're a part of right now. This is the reason. And I've believed in it, even with injuries and even with the disappointment at the start of the season. I have believed in it. I believe in the path, and I believe that the decisions have been made. And I know a lot of you kind of view it as, well, yeah, the Colts decisions, you're not really on board with that. So you kind of look down and all decisions are made, but these two franchises right now could not be operating decision-making wise further apart. There's a lot of smart decision-making difference between the two. Roll with it. And I have said that, Nick, from the outset. At JMV, was I the only one concerned about Thomas Bryant just beyond the fact he was having a struggling game? Yeah, last night was the difference between enthusiasm and going overboard. And he went overboard. And he went overboard. You just don't act like that with a teammate. Now, it may have been the perfect teammate to do that with, because I think that teammate also, when approached in certain circumstances in the past, has reacted in similar fashion. Maybe not like that. But it was interesting last night when Benedict Mathurin approached Thomas Bryant. Thomas Bryant was upset about a call, and he tried to settle him down, and Bryant was not going to be settled down. And we have seen that with Mathurin in the past. Mathurin seemed to kind of shake it off. But that's the type of stuff that if he's going to be a critical piece to this going on further in the season, coming off the bench last night, obviously he was a starter because Miles didn't play. But you got to dial that down, especially postseason-wise, because that's going to hurt you. And further will hurt your team. Kevin writes this, JMV, I knew that they would win even down 12. Utah is not able to close, and they struggled last night. The Pacers cranked up the defense a little bit. And that's what happened. Greg Rakestraw, top of the hour. We got a lot going on tonight. I mentioned, too, you got IU on the road at Wisconsin. First time tonight since 98. They're going to win that in Madison. Who's with me? And then Purdue on the road at Iowa. Owen Freeman done for the season. That's nearly 17 points a game that the Hawkeyes and Fran McCaffrey will be without. Boilermakers, IU, Big Ten games on Peacock later on tonight. Then that 10 o'clock tip, 9:30 coverage begins here on The Fan with the Pacers and the Blazers. And certainly high school basketball-wise for the girls, sectional play is officially underway later on tonight throughout the state of Indiana. Greg Rakestraw will get us updated on all of that and then some coming up at the top of the hour. Busy week, rest of the week for you too, I shall explain, and a chance for you to join the show live coming up on Thursday. Further explanation forthcoming. Do not go anywhere. The AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. Shout out to everybody who's watching right now. Thank you all for being in there. Become a AAA member today. The stream, the app, HD Radio, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
The Ride with JMV.
Well, we're waiting.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
AR, I feel like, is taking the right steps, like he's working with people that he thinks are going to help him get to that next level. And, like everything that happened throughout the season, I mean, I felt like he handled everything great, right? Because at times it felt like everybody was throwing shots at him. I mean, like he's such like a young guy, but the way that he handled that with his professionalism, how he showed up every single day, he didn't sulk, and he showed up and worked. And those are the kind of things that keep me hopeful for him, that I think we're going to see improvement in him, because one, he's just, I mean, like he wants to be that guy that he knows that he can be, and that guy that all of us know that he can be.
That's Wish TV Channel 8 and Anthony Calhoun with Michael Pittman Jr. from New Orleans a little bit earlier today, talking about his quarterback going into year number 3, Anthony Richardson, and what he has gone through up until this point, and then obviously the path in which he has taken to try to, I don't know if I want to say become, do I say sustain as the starting quarterback? How would I put this? How about if I just put it to be what the Colts expect him to be, and a lot of the fans, and to be opposite of the evidence that we have so far, to be opposite of the non-belief with people like myself we have until we see it. I think most of us right now are in we'll believe it when we see it mode, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. Just like there's absolutely nothing wrong with Michael Pittman Jr. standing up for Anthony Richardson and saying what he said. Now, he mentioned in the middle of that as well is, I believe that can help. Listen, nobody knows. And when you say, well, how do you know? Why are you making this thought? Why are you so opinionated being anti? I'm not anti Anthony Richardson. I am a realist Anthony Richardson. I just cannot tell you something is going to happen coming up next year with this Colts team at quarterback. I need to see some evidence. And here's what you're going to counter. You said, well, wait a minute. Even most recently, you just said you think IU's going to win at Wisconsin tonight. What's your evidence of that? Well, my evidence was last Friday. I thought they played really well on the road against Purdue. I think that when they can put something together, as we have seen, they can be tough. And much like I had a listener mention a little bit earlier, I think they're kind of whack. I think they're bizarro. And this is the type of night, this is the type of lengthy, ridiculous since 1998 streak where IU has lost in Madison, Wisconsin. This is the type of team that I think can bag that streak. Not because I believe in it for the rest of the season, because I believe in the moment that they do have talent. And as I mentioned a little bit earlier, I just think the squad's kind of whack. And I use that term because that's 1998. Think about where you were in 1998. James, where were you? Did you say you were 2 years old?
I was 2 years old.
My friend Greg said, what did he say right here? I've got a lot of people suggesting where they were in 1998. I graduated from IU in 1997. I just turned 50. That is a long freaking time ago. Think about that. And then for a moment, think about IU basketball fans, what Wisconsin and basketball used to represent. A minor speed bump occasionally. A minor, regardless. Assembly Hall or wherever they play. What did they play in Wisconsin back in the day? Some field house? I'm sure it was some old piece of crap. Like, we remember guys like Rick Olson and his grape smugglers and the hairiest legs of all time. Yeah, I know that there are more than that. I think didn't the Heineman twins from Connorsville play at Wisconsin back in the day, I think? I mean, there are some certainly local connections, and you go back even, I guess not further, but in between this time and the Heineman twins, for example, Michael Finley played at Wisconsin. They've had some good players, and especially some good players over this streak. But there was a point in time that most of you will not remember when IU absolutely owned it, as Wisconsin has owned it, especially in Madison since 1998. It has to end at some point. Why not tonight? I'm going to tell you what. You think about how you used to view IU basketball then compared to now. Not even close. You could not have explained to me these circumstances when, for example, I was 16 or 17 years old and have me shake my head and go, oh, yeah, that's how it's going to be like when I'm 55, right? In no way. All right, quick break. We shall return. The NBA trade deadline's coming up on Thursday. We discussed that with Tony East a little bit earlier, too. The Pacers win in Salt Lake City for the first time since a French guy and Miles got into it on the floor. And they're going to shoot for a win, their first win in the Moda Center since the 07. That's when they actually had a crowd. In 2021, they won there when it was a COVID year and no crowd. But Moda Center, second of a back-to-back later on tonight. 10 o'clock is that tip time. 9:30 coverage begins with Pat Boylan right here on The Fan. IU, Wisconsin, Purdue and Iowa, Blazers, Pacers, and so much more to discuss, including high school basketball. The girls' sectional play is officially underway later on tonight. We're going to get you updated on all of that and then some. Greg Rakestraw joins us coming on the other side, so do not go anywhere. The AAA Membership Lounge, that's via YouTube Live at 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
The cream, yeah. The cream of the crop. And there is no one that does it better.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
IU, Wisconsin later on tonight. We got to get into that. Greg Rakestraw joins us coming up in a minute. Purdue and Iowa tonight, too. Not since 98, when this song was a part of the Hot 100, right? Do they still play Will Smith songs after he slapped Chris Rock? Is he out too, Will Smith?
I don't even know if
Where's Will Smith? Has he been eliminated because of the slapping event?
I just think they stopped playing his music well before the slap, honestly.
Do we have a favorite Will Smith song out there? Is it Getting Jiggy With It? Miami?
I would say, at least for me, it's probably the Fresh Prince theme song.
The Fresh Prince. Parents Just Don't Understand.
That is one, yeah.
Pick up the car phone to perpetrate like I was talking. Parents Just Don't Understand. How about Nightmare on My Street?
I've never heard that one.
No?
No.
Here's one for you. See if you can go back into that when you bring Greg on here again. Boom, boom. Hey, your mic's on over there, James. Don't talk to you. Oh, there you go. Boom, boom, shake, shake the room. There you go. Jason Ellis is right on top of boom, boom, shake, shake the room. Hey, by the way, John Berry corrected me, and thank you, John. Mike Heineman, the Heineman twins of Connorsville fame. Mike Heineman attended Wisconsin. And correct me if I'm wrong, John, you can add to this a little bit, too. Did he play for Steve Yoder at Wisconsin? Chris Heineman, the twin, he played at Davidson. The Heineman twins of Connorsville. Thank you, John, for that. Back with you guys in a second. Meantime, on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, I'm sure he's going to be very busy coming up later on tonight with a variety of things. We're going to keep him busy right now because there is a ton to talk about on this heavy basketball Tuesday night, whether we're talking about Central Indiana, the state of Indiana, and Greg Rakestraw joins us now. Hello, Greg. How are you?
I'm good, sir. I walked into the middle of Boom, Shake the Room. What did I miss?
Well, we're going back to 1998 because that's the last time IU won in Madison, Wisconsin, 1998. Yep. So we're doing the Hot 100 songs from 1998, and Getting Jiggy With It from Will Smith was one. So I asked everybody what was their favorite Will Smith song. And, you go back to DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, Parents Just Don't Understand, and we ended up getting into Boom Boom Shake Shake the Room.
I'm pretty sure that I have called in on a Saturday night and have requested that song.
You have.
That hits the sweet spot of my junior year of high school, 1993.
I'm assuming, too, because it's a summertime song, and that's really the only time it's ever played. Summertime is probably at the top of the list, too.
It would be up there. That was from 1991, and yes, it is very much a seasonal anthem, but always appreciated.
Now, I know that the girls are underway tonight with first-round sectional play. Does that mean you're going to be active?
I get to kind of wait on the girls' sectional until we get to the sectional championship. So I am heading to Noblesville for the sectional final there. The expected matchup would be Hamilton Southeastern and Noblesville, but in that group it could be anybody. And then the regional for me usually is Decatur Central, but we'll see kind of where teams get sent. And then I take the semi-state round off because I have the wrestling state finals that Saturday. That I will do the 3A and 4A championships on March 1st from Cambridge Fieldhouse.
All right. So I do have a kind of an intertwined personal note with a girls' basketball note. Adam sends me this. Keep an eye on Monrovia. The girls' sectional matchup with Park Tudor. Monrovia on a 7-game win streak coming in. Park Tudor won by 5 last matchup. But Monrovia has a sophomore named Willow Daly making noise with her D. Should be a dogfight in Morgan County. Thank you, JMV. That's from Adam Pruitt. All right, I'm going to go ahead and weave in my personal note. Are we going with the legend Mark Janes on Friday over at Monrovia High School? Are we doing that?
Are you joining me for Friday morning?
I believe.
Is that a go?
I cannot. He asked me to go. Now this is a two-parter, And I can't turn down anything that the voice of the 500 asked me to do. So anything Mark Janes, the legend, asked me to do, that I will do. And I saw that you're also on the list. But I was going to ask, do they play pickup basketball in the morning in Monrovia? Because if they do, I want to go over and maybe get into some pickup basketball before school over there.
I would assume they do. I mean, my goodness, the court's named after Branch McCracken, because that's where he's an alumnus of. You would think that he'd playing some pickup ball, there. I don't know for sure. Have you not done the Mark Janes Super Bowl presentation?
I have not. I don't know what I don't know what it's about. I was just going to show my ass up and do whatever. Yeah.
Well, showing up is a big part of it. So basically, we sit there and he has all of his kids do they get into groups and they do PowerPoint presentations as to what the big keys for the Super Bowl are going to be. It's a way for those kids to learn how to use technology and media. That's kind of the idea. But for we offer our thoughts as to presentation skills like that, and then on the slide, it's great gambling advice for us if we want to use it. So there's that too.
All right. So what time do we need to be over there?
I'm supposed to be over there by 8 a.m. Now you live down that way. For me, it's a bit of a haul, so I'd have to leave here at 6:45 or something.
All right. So is there? I guess I could ask, does anybody over in Monrovia know if they play pickup basketball over there? Because I would go earlier and take my gear and get a couple of games in over there if they do. I just don't know if they do or not.
I would imagine Nick, the basketball coach, upon hearing this, will schedule a Friday morning practice.
I'll be there.
Knowing that the boys don't play on Friday because of the sectional. I don't know the Monrovia schedule other than we as ISC will have their game with Tri-West next Tuesday. So there might be a Friday morning workout so you could show them how to yell short on every jump shot.
Oh, man. Well, and see, part of my issue is tonight we've got so much hoop on that obviously is going to change some of my plans for Tuesday night hoop at Center Grove. So I thought, maybe if I could, and I've been going down to IU at the Hyper on middays on Fridays, and I can't do that on Friday if I join. I don't think I can if I join Mark over there and you guys. So I'm thinking if they play some morning pickup, I'll just take my stuff.
I was going to say, now, you've been driving to Bloomington for pickup basketball at lunchtime, correct?
I will go down there about 11:45. And Josh Downing, a friend of mine from Center Grove, and Mike Ross, who's a noted booster for IU hoopage down there, put together a group, and I play on a couple of different courts, and it's a hell of a time. Yes. About 11:45.
I think we're done at Monrovia at about 11:30. The rest of the time is scheduled for lunch, and since you don't eat anymore anyway, you can just leave at 11:30 and go to Bloomington and be just fine. You're halfway there when you're to Monrovia, so you're in good shape.
I might be able to do that, though. That sounds good. I do love Monrovia. I had a really good game over there back in 1988. Had a really good game. I remember it. So any good game I had, I will always remember vividly. Absolutely everything. All right, Greg Rakestraw is on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. We'll break away from high school for a moment and get to the collegiate ranks. Why am I sitting here? Is it just me just throwing a dart at a dartboard as to why I think this IU team is talented and also whack, a 1998 term, whack enough to go up and end this streak since 1998 later on tonight? Why else would I think about that?
Because this Indiana team is capable of things that are good and things that are horrid, and we have seen both. Let's face it, nobody expected that game to be led by IU as long as it was on Friday night. Most didn't think it was going to be that close, but from a talent standpoint it is there. And again, Wisconsin is a good team. Wisconsin's not a great team. And so it's not like this Indiana team isn't capable of beating anybody in the Big Ten on any given night. So, yes, that's why it is possible they could win for the first time since I was in college when they go to Madison this evening.
I just kind of look at what they have, and if they could put together any semblance of what we saw on Friday and Mackey – and for God's sake, maybe close something for once. At some point, the law of averages, doesn't that have to take place to where you win and you actually close out a game for that win at the same time, which I know to IU fans right now, that would seem like an absolute dream and not a nightmare, as it has been. But it would seem like if there's an opportunity tonight, could be that night.
It is possible. Now, again, recent history would tell you that the closing out of the game, the finishing it off, that could be the problem.
That's the problem.
Where,
yeah.
If they get a bigger lead, okay, we're having maybe a different conversation. Law of averages would tell you they would have won in the Kohl Center at some point in time in the last 27 years. So if this group can show that they can close down the stretch, then we might have something here.
It's going to be weird too, Greg, because I hear from a lot of people that really would, and this is odd, but a lot of people that want to see them lose for the sake of the decision
right.
for a change being made. And I try to tell those folks that the decision, I think, has already been made and is going to be made. Now, it's not going to be like just some big firing or anything like that. I mean, they're going to handle it as delicately as you would expect them to try to do under these circumstances. But I don't think a win in Wisconsin would jeopardize what a lot of people want to see at the end of this season, and that is a change in regime.
No, it would take a lot more wins because, again, frankly, because of their resume, you pick up more. It's not like this win guarantees their spot in the NCAA tournament. Far from it. You would need to see a lot of wins for a potential different path by the time we get to the end of March.
It's Greg Rakestraw on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Purdue on the road at Iowa, and no Owen Freeman done for the season. I talked yesterday about Brooks Barnheiser being done for the season, which is a tremendous bummer, certainly as well with Northwestern in mind. But Freeman, what he means to that Hawkeye team and how dynamic they have been offensively, you subtract 17 per game, and against a Purdue team that can be tough in any venue like that, that's problematic for Fran McCaffrey's crew, to say the least.
It is, but again, even Purdue has showed us, hey, even that they have been more consistently good than bad, they're capable of slipping on the banana peel this year. They don't have that margin for error that they've had in years gone by, as evidenced by the loss at home to Ohio State. So absolutely Purdue is the favorite tonight, and yes, the injury for Iowa is not good news for Fran McCaffrey's team, but there is no such thing this year as Purdue shows up, Purdue is guaranteed a win. Are they the favorite? Absolutely they are, but they are not so much substantially better than everybody else in the Big Ten, where they're guaranteed to get the W even on the road.
Hey, let's face it, Lanesville, Silver Creek, not too far apart. Is Trey Kaufman-Wren to you at expectations, above expectations? Where is he in his collegiate career with Matt Painter so far?
Probably a little bit above expectations, where you would have said early in his career a little bit below them. You were kind of worried about him getting lost in the shuffle at one point in time. But for he to be such a featured piece, again, let's face it, Braden Smith is option number one, but he is very much the steadiest of Robins to Braden Smith's Batmans. And so the fact that he was able to kind of bear through some tough times, to me, that's the story of Trey's collegiate career to this point.
Yeah. I think that, and I think now you really, I don't want to say blossom, that's weird, but you can see him, I think, expanding his game and certainly his presence, which you expected was going to be necessary without Zach Edey now. But I think he's taken on that role in significant proportions this season for Matt Painter.
Yeah, and you got to remember, and double-check this to make sure I'm right about this, because obviously in Indiana, Mr. Basketball goes to a senior. In other words, you're going to win that award one time and that's it.
Yeah.
I believe in the COVID year that he was the Gatorade Player of the Year as a junior because, again, the senior class, was not as good. That was the year that it was Anthony Leal and Tony Perkins were kind of the top two players from that class of 2020. You had Dre Davis, Nigel Packett was part of that group in 2020 as well. But I think from a national level, Trey was the Gatorade Player of the Year. And I bring that up just because that means there are significant expectations for you going into college. And he didn't meet them at first. A hand injury for the Indiana All-Stars kind of played in that in 2021. But obviously he has met, if not surpassed, expectations for what he has done for the last couple of seasons, but obviously especially this year.
He is Greg Rakestraw on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, and certainly you know about a lot of things. IU Indy would be one of those. You're number one with the Paul Casaro, Mike Burris regime has gone to this point how you thought it was going to go? What's been your impression so far?
I would say it's gone as I thought it would go, and that's been a very good thing. They are 8-16. That may not sound great, but the next win would be the most wins they have had in the last 6 years. Now, again, there's a bit of an asterisk involved in one of those. The year after COVID, where nobody could go to games, that team was actually pretty good. Now, they only went 8-10 because they only played 18 games. But that was the group that had Marcus Burke and Jalen Minette and Elijah Goss, all guys that have played professional basketball. That was actually a fun team, just nobody ever saw them. They didn't play enough games. But if this, the next game that they win, which would be Milwaukee tomorrow night, if not, it'd be at Wright State on Saturday as far as the next couple of opportunities, they have made such significant progress. And they had what is by far their best win of the season in winning at Youngstown State on Saturday afternoon. Youngstown was a 20-win team last year. Youngstown is currently tied for fourth in the Horizon League. They're 8-5 in league play. And the Jags, even when Youngstown State wasn't any good, just has never had success against the Penguins. They were in the mid-con together for a handful of years. They've been in the Horizon together for the last 8 years. That game on Saturday was the third time ever that IUPUI or IU Indianapolis has beaten Youngstown State, and they've all been in Youngstown. So it's a bounce back from what was also their worst performance of the season, getting absolutely housed at Robert Morris on Thursday. So they have made significant progress. Now the goal for IU Indy is this. They're currently tied for 9th in the league standings. If they can get to 8th, they'll get a home game in the first round of the league tournament. This is the 6th year of that format, and IU Indy has never played a home game. That tells you how much of a struggle it's been as of late. So hopefully that'll take place about a month or so from now.
It's been your impression with Matt Graves. I owe him a call and a visit on this show, and I feel bad that I haven't done it up until this point right now. And we knew that things, transitionally speaking, it was going to be a struggle. There are going to be some good moments, as we saw at UIC over the weekend, but there are also going to be some struggles there. What's been your impression on year number 1 in Terre Haute with Matt Graves?
Probably a little bit better than I would have expected. And again, there's been ups and downs. They were really playing well heading into like the second wave of conference play, then struggled in early January. Now have backed it up with a couple of wins. Again, that was such a complete rebuild after such a talented team all went their separate ways at the end of last year. I'm not sure there was much in the way of expectations for Indiana State. I think they're probably going to finish in the vicinity of 500 in terms of the Missouri Valley Conference. And while that may not sound like much after last year, knowing that you're rebuilding everything, that's not exactly a bad start for Matthew.
It's Greg Rakestraw. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. We see more and more, and especially these power conference teams adding general managers to navigate through NIL right now. Is there going to be a point in time when basically everybody that's anybody is going to have a general manager as a part of their team?
Yep, especially in football where you have got such a bigger roster to deal with. Maybe you're going to see that to some degree in basketball. And my goodness, staffs have been bloated for years, at the upper level, number of assistant coaches, director of basketball operations, et cetera, But especially in football when you've got, 85 scholarships and more, preferred walk-ons than that, you're going to see that take place.
That's Greg Rakestraw with us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Before I let you go, I want to get Miss Basketball, your thoughts, and where we are right now as we tail in on the end of the season, regular season-wise, for the fellas, where we are with Mr. Basketball.
All right, Mr. Basketball is Braylon Mullins. I can answer that for you right now. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about that. It's going to be him. It is still a talented group without Jalen Harrelson, without Trent Sisley, but it's Braylon's award. On the girls' side, there's a lot more debate and discussion, and I think what happens in the postseason will go a long way. Is it Maya McAlusty at Hamilton Southeastern? They're undefeated. They're number 1. She's heading to Indiana University. Is it Jayla Lampley of the Lampley sisters of Lawrence Central? Who very much have a good chance to be back-to-back Indiana State champs. She's going to play Mississippi State. For those who don't follow women's basketball, they're really good every year. She is a national-level player. Frankly, both of those two ladies are WNBA players at some point in time down the line. Addie Baxter, that's heading to play at Butler for Austin Parkinson at Columbia City. She is a fantastic player. The youngest of the three Reynolds sisters at South Bend, Washington, is heading to Purdue. She is an outstanding player, and she had 5 different stat categories where she had double digits in a game against New Prairie in January. I just rattled off 4 outstanding high school basketball players. I might be leaving off one more, like Meredith Tipner, who, if she can play long enough, if they can get past HSE this week, she might become the all-time leading scorer at Noblesville. Oh, and she's missed soccer as well. She was the best high school soccer player in the state, but she's going to play, college hoops in Miami, Florida. So it is a ridiculously talented senior class in both girls and boys basketball. But there is much more of a debate in girls hoops than there probably is in boys hoops in terms of the top player this year.
It's Greg Rakestraw with an update that is necessary right there. So February the 6th, Monrovia will be hosting Greencastle. What's today? What's today's date?
So today is the 4th, so they play on Thursday. So I would assume if Coach Nick at Monrovia wants an early morning workout, he can bring you in as the team shooting instructor, hopefully after a win on Thursday night.
Yeah, 6-9 on the season. So I'm there to help instruct a little bit. And also, I may have to work them because if you look back far enough on their season, they have a double overtime 66-63 win over Eastern Green. So I might have to stir the echoes of when the Thunderbirds dominated the series, if you know what I mean.
How are the T-Birds doing this year, by the way?
Buddy.
That good, huh?
Yeah, 6-10 for Coach Jamie Hudson's team. So it is, and the girls have been even worse. So yeah, it's not been great down there. However, I will say in that section, Clay City, as you well know, I'm sure you're dialed into the smaller schools. Clay City has been really good this year. The Eels in 1A, they still maybe number 1. They're 15-1 of the season. Blake Neal, JB Neal's son. JB's the head coach at Martinsville. His son plays at Bloomfield. Has had a fantastic season for the Cardinals, and as always in 2A, Linton's really good. Matt Britton's squad is 14-2 this season, so it's not without talent down in southwestern Indiana for sure. I think North Knox with the girls, that's a pretty good team. Both North and South Knox, I think, in girls might be good too. So yeah,
those two were both fantastic last year. This year it is South Knox. Their only 2 losses with the Hall of Fame Classic to Homestead and Hamilton Southeastern, and they are the favorites in 2A going in.
Do you remember the name Gugliotta?
Yes, I do. The fact that Tom has relatives from North Knox. Absolutely. It was Chelsea was a pretty good basketball player from North Knox, correct?
Yeah, Tom Gugliotta had relatives. 6'11". I think went to NC State, played, for the most part, I remember him with the then Washington Bullets, but
played with the T-Wolves as well.
Yeah, was a very talented player in the NBA and had family members down in and around Bicknell back in the day.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So, yeah. Gugliotta. There's something you did not expect to hear today. Tom Gugliotta's name.
And not exactly a common Southern Indiana last name. No, sir.
No, it is not. No, it's going to stick out there around Bicknell. There's no question. Gugliotta is not common. All right, my brother, take it easy until this weekend and then cut her all loose, and we'll reconvene here next Tuesday, all right?
Thanks, buddy.
It's Greg Rakestraw on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline right there. Gugliotta. True story right there. North Knox. All right, quick break. We'll come back. James, let's do some calls on the other side. I think we'll start with Bill at 239-1070. If you guys want to jump on board, we can talk some IU, Wisconsin. IU, Wisconsin, the late one tonight at 9 on the Peacock. Boilermaker fans also getting Peacock tonight. Purdue in Iowa City versus the Hawkeyes. Rob Blackman a little bit earlier talked about that matchup. Now, I will suggest to you, IU fans, that's a 9 o'clock start. That means 8 o'clock is the pregame coverage right across the hall, 93 WIBC, with Don Fisher. At IU, Wisconsin, you get Purdue in Iowa, both those games on Peacock. Pacers, Blazers, the second of a back-to-back for the Pacers tonight. That's a 10 o'clock start. 9:30 coverage begins with Pat Boylan right here in this studio for you. with the Pacers and the Blazers coming up later on tonight. All right, quick break. We'll come back. I mentioned the calls. Bill's going to start. Rest of the way we go until 6 o'clock. Do not leave the AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. Become a AAA member today. It's 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
The Ride with JMV.
I don't know what the hell's in there, but it's weird and pissed off, whatever it is.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
1998. What is this, Third Eye Blind? How's it going to be? Yeah, not since 98, IU on the road in Madison against Wisconsin. Tonight, that's a 9 o'clock start, 8 o'clock your coverage with Don Fisher, Eric Soar, and John Herrick across the hall at 93 WIBC. Chad writes this. This is Chad and Stacy in Madison County. When Stacy and I hit the shows at Rock the Ruins, it's our go-to talking about their love for Cluster Truck, and Evan Sherrill was in here a little bit earlier, clustertruck.com. That is, your promo code to save is FAN. So tonight, you get all that basketball. Don't worry about dinner. Cluster Truck's got you covered. Clustertruck.com. Promo code FAN. Indeed. JMV, if current seeding holds, wouldn't it be great to buck Milwaukee in the first round again? That would be kind of funny. Actually, very funny that would be. As of right now, 28-20 overall, the Pacers occupy the 4-hole in the Eastern Conference playoff picture. Again, as of right now. Malcolm Butler on the show tomorrow. All right. Former NFLer, I believe live from New Orleans for the Super Bowl. I got to get Dusty May on later this week, too, don't I? Head coach of Michigan IU coming up. I believe that game's on Saturday, too. IU, Wisconsin tonight. Iowa, Purdue this evening. We are busy with hoop and calls at 239-1070. And Bill is up first today. Hello, Billy. How are you?
JMV, how are you doing today?
Billy, we are Thursday downtown at Tom's Watch Bar. Is this convenient for you?
Oh, absolutely.
Great.
Absolutely. Looking forward to that, definitely. And also because this is that time of year where the sweetest phrase in sports is uttered. Pitchers and catchers report.
Yes.
And I can't think of a better place to watch baseball. I mean, if you're a baseball fanatic and you want to catch a lot of games, there's no better place to do it than Tom's Watch Bar.
No, there's no doubt. And our favorite catcher around here, Tucker Barnhart, is embarking on his journey to Arizona to train with the Texas Rangers coming up here next week.
So we can catch some of his games as well, and that's a good thing about Tom's Watch Bar. But I'm gonna say something extremely outrageous, but I think it could actually happen.
Outrageous.
And there's been a lot of movement out in Laker land. There was a Sports Illustrated article that came out on February the 2nd that talked about LeBron James and his tampering, almost over the top tampering to get Anthony Davis there, and then this thing with his son left a lot of people in that organization with a bad taste in their mouth because they bet on him that his son was going to be able to make the team, and he didn't, and he couldn't, and he's probably a couple years away from that. So I think that and the Lakers definitely need a center. So I'm proposing.
Okay, your proposal is as follows:
the Pacers trade Miles Turner and Johnny Furphy to the Lakers for LeBron James.
Bill, why is this so outrageous? Why this behavior this late in the show?
Well, it's something that I can actually see it happening.
Billy, there's a great song. There's a great song from 1986. It's a one-hit wonder by The System called "Don't Disturb This Groove," and you are severely disturbing my groove with such a statement right now.
So you would not be in favor of seeing LeBron James come up and set a pick for T.J. McConnell?
Well, I mean, first of all, I guess sitting here in reality-based society, it seems incredibly out. I think anytime anybody brings up a trade Miles mess with this team situation right now, I'm not on board with it. So
I'm not either.
And that one seems incredibly outrageous right there. But my groove has been disturbed a little bit, though. Bring me back.
Well, we'll go back to baseball again. Barnhart and his tryout is going to be a really big deal because where is his legacy then in baseball? He's had a prolonged career. He's had a good career. What do you think about his legacy in baseball and his
no, he's been one of my all-time favorites, and there's nothing better than having, especially in baseball around here, a friend of yours play for your favorite team. And those years in which he played for the Reds are still some of my favorites. And again, obviously, you look back at the Reds when, wire to wire, 1990, or even, further back when I was growing up, the Big Red Machine. But some of my favorite years of enjoying baseball was when Tucker was with my favorite team. That's pretty awesome. A friend being on your favorite team is pretty cool.
That would be, and after yesterday, with all the great weather we had, I can't wait for baseball to start. And I think the Reds could make some noise in their division, don't you think?
And they should be able to. They're trying to put something together, Billy. Know what I mean? Trying. So we'll see if they got enough wattage in their cottage in terms of bats, but. They've trying to put. We talked to Lance McAllister last week, and after that, I think they've added an arm out of the bullpen, and we'll see where that goes. But it'd be nice one of these days if they were competitive again. That'd be great.
Man, I can't wait to see it. And I can't wait to see you at Tom's Watch Bar on Thursday.
Billy, I appreciate you. We'll look for you at Tom's Watch Bar coming up on Thursday. You guys can all join us downtown off of Illinois. TVs are absolutely everywhere, so join us at Tom's Watch Bar. That's on Thursday afternoon. 239-1070, and Tommy is next on the show. Tommy, welcome.
What's going on, John? Hey,
hello, Tommy.
Two things. You were talking about Wisconsin basketball players from the mid-'90s.
Yes.
I don't know if you mentioned his name earlier in the show, but Dwayne.
Yes.
Guy from Bloomington in the mid-'90s or so. Him and his brother Quest. Remember those guys? They were always monsters, and I think they went on to play at Wisconsin. And
Quest played at Syracuse, right? I believe too.
Yeah. I remember those two guys growing up. Just always were.
I always used to say Dwayne. I say is good. Dwayne is good.
Yep,
so
right.
Yes, that's another one with Wisconsin wise too. Didn't Wisconsin have? And he's not local. They have a big man named Rashard Griffith that was like a McDonald's All-American or something back in the 90s too.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep, you're right.
Yeah. So
if we're one other thing, if we're giving out crazy trades, let's go ahead and trade Miles for Zach Edey. Edey's got a better contract, probably not as good as Miles, and Memphis is the win now in their position. Maybe they trade and get the Pacers get a little bit better contract for the next few years. But
are you a Miles guy?
I don't know. I'm just tired of paying him. Well, I don't know if I'd want to pay him as much as he's going to be asking. But
what ultimately he's going to get paid when the cap goes up. You're going to look at it and you're going to go, yeah, that's not very much for the skill that he provides, right?
Yeah, I know. I mean, I get that part of it. I just feel like if you can trade for a younger guy with, I don't know. Edey's still in the case. I'm not obviously. Edey probably a pipe dream, and Memphis just isn't playing as much as he probably is hoping. He's probably not getting the minutes he wants.
You have to have it. Yeah, you have to have a big man, Tommy, that is a face-up three-point threat. I'm talking about this team, and really a lot of teams that are successful out there need this, but you especially need that with this Pacer team. They can't operate otherwise. I mean, everybody, people want low post and. And more rebounds. Let's say, for example, if you had Hartenstein, who's playing in OKC, that would definitely not work. And you would say, well, you get more rebounds, blah, 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 but there would be no face-up game, and the other parts of this team would not work to the level in which we have seen without what Miles brings. And these players would tell you that. That's why he's an essential piece.
Yep, no, I get it. Yep. Thanks, man. Appreciate
Tommy, appreciate that. Thank you very much. Yeah, people want – I made this – with Tony East, this argument a little bit earlier. I had this guy that it was such a huge pain in the ass. That constantly talked about, well, you got to be able to post up and you got to be able to do this. And no, you don't. You don't need two post players. Their legitimate post presence is their all-star, and that's Pascal Siakam. I haven't looked this up recently, but when I looked it up back in December, he was top 8 in paint touches, in post-up touches. That's what you need. You don't need 2 of them. You need 1 of them. But let's just face it. Without a player like Miles in high ball screen action, whether it's pick and pop or pick and dive, and by the way, without that being, you have to be a threat. You can put anybody out there and get them in a pick and pop situation, and it doesn't work if that person is not a threat. If you go, yeah, go ahead and shoot it because we know you're not going to hit it. He is a threat, and that is what is necessary. That is at the highest level necessary for this team. And believe me, when they end up extending him and paying him, you're going to look back on that and you're going to go, yeah, you know, as the whole situation financially continues to grow and they raise the bar on that, it's not going to look like you think it's going to look. Some of you just would not consider that being essential until it is gone. I thought last night maybe you recognize a little bit how essential that it is. Like for those of you that have like laughed and said, well, you know, Thomas Bryant's playing well, he could do this. I think you saw last night just how stupid that opinion is. Come off the bench, do what you do off the bench. But this is organized as a team, and especially offensively, plays at its highest level with 33 in there. That is the way that is. Let me take a break. We'll come back for a final time. If you're on hold, I'll get to you. Top of the hour we go. Busy show tomorrow. Tom's Watch Bar on Thursday. And we got a lot to recap tomorrow. IU, Wisconsin, tonight at 9 in Madison. Purdue, Iowa City versus the Hawkeyes tonight at 7. And the Pacers, the second of a back-to-back coming up tonight in Portland. Again, Luka looks like that target date of return or first time in the lineup for the Lakers would be on Saturday, late afternoon in Southern California. We shall see. We'll follow that story rest of the week, too, and a busy rest of the week we shall have. Of course, it is also Super Bowl 59 week. It's 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Select them, trade them, or just enjoy them.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
No, Billy, this is for you. It's a duo, 1986. It's a good song right here, by the way. James, you ever heard of this?
I have not, no.
I believe a couple of producers called The System. This is Don't Disturb This Groove. Billy kind of disturbed my groove with that a little bit earlier. Luka, we learned today, was shocked by the trade, but excited to join the Lakers. There was one deal today. I think the Mavericks made another move today. Quentin Grimes of the Sixers for Caleb Martin, I think, was the deal. Again, the NBA trade deadline approaches coming up on Thursday. Anthony Davis, his comments, I'm over it, ready to play for the Mavericks. And we'll see where that goes from here. Pacers on the road against Portland later on tonight. That tip time's at 10. 9:30 coverage begins here with Pat Boylan and the pregame show on The Fan. I don't know if I'm going to have time to get to it. I will get back to your calls right here. I did see this courtesy of Pro Football Focus. The Colts have been named as a top landing spot for, and not that this matters 1 ounce, 49ers soon-to-be free agent standout linebacker Dre Greenlaw. The potential landing spot, the Lions and the Colts, and according to PFF and all the geeks and the nerds there, this is what it says. Greenlaw spent much of the past season getting right after his Achilles injury during the 49ers run to the Super Bowl in 2023, which may leave some front offices, I should say, hesitant to offer despite a need. This is what it says by the Colts. The Colts sported a top 10 graded defense in 2024 due to in large part the play of Zaire Franklin in the middle. However, coverage at linebacker position left something to be desired in the defense with both Franklin and his running mate E.J. Speed, who was an unrestricted free agent this offseason, earning coverage grades under 48 according to PFF. Inserting Greenlaw into the lineup would be a sizable upgrade as he produced 82.6 and 79.5 coverage grades in his last 2 full seasons with the Niners. Thought I'd nerd that up for you a little bit. The PFF guys just lost interest in us, didn't they? They did not get back with you at all this year.
Yeah, I never heard anything.
Because I call them nerds, is that why?
That may have had something to do with it.
John writes this, on the Miles trade, who is going to do what he does as well as he does for less money? Yeah, and John, you're right about this. The answer is nobody, which would be how stupid it would be to trade him. Costanza's up next at 239-1070. Costanza, welcome to the show.
Hey, John, I'll tell you, I mean, worlds will be colliding if they trade Miles Turner.
Yes.
What I don't understand is why haven't the Pacers organization come out and say, we're not trading Miles, period? Because there is nobody else in the league that plays that game as well as he does. And there's a reason why the Lakers want him. So he is, to me, untradeable. This shouldn't even be a discussion. But
no, I don't think it should be a discussion either. They're not going to say anything between negotiations and just overall tact. They're not going to say anything. But no, I'm right there with you, Costanza. There's no conversation to be had for what you want and what you're doing right now. Yes.
You get on the internet and you look at all these articles. Oh, Lakers are coming after Miles after the Luka Doncic. And by the way, Luka does look like he's about a biscuit shy of $3 bills. I mean, he is pushing maximum density, and I think I took that from Breakfast Club.
You did. Costanza, is he? Could you go down in history if he is indeed described as fat? Could he be the best fat player of all time right there? Seriously.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, they say he's slow, he can't jump. I mean, I think we heard that about Bird, but look what Bird did. But I don't know. I'm going to use the word great. I'm going to use the word that Rick Ventura used. People are delusional. I mean, let's not get stupid here, people. We cannot trade Miles. You don't want to disrupt that chemistry. And last night's game, for 3 quarters, we saw Thomas Bryant, and it was not good. Yes. So get that out of your head, folks. But anyway, expect a call later this week from Checkpoint Chicky. I know he needs to check in with you.
Yeah, Checkpoint Chicky does. I was thinking about wearing my Andy Griffith shirt to work today, and Costanza, I did not. Thank you for the call right there. Checkpoint Chicky. Well, Barney Fife reference from the Andy Griffith Show. Cameron's up next on line 1. Hello, Cameron.
Hey, John. I just wanted to throw 2 names out there quickly for the Pacers. So I've been a Jarris Walker fan since we got him, and the more and more I watched him play, I watched last night. There was a play last night. I think you probably definitely saw it too, where he looked frustrated, like he knew maybe he was getting ready to come out. He comes down, he jacks up a 3 in a fast break. Rick immediately pulls him. My thing that I want to say about him is I think there's definitely going to come a point here very soon where he's going to get frustrated with his role and his minutes, because I understand he's only in his 2nd year, but you draft a guy the 8th overall pick. When he does get his minutes, when he did have that chunk, I thought he played pretty well, and I know him and Shepard are going to kind of be tossed back and forth, and it looks like Shepard's going to get more of those minutes. I just think he's starting to show a little frustration, and I don't blame him for that.
Yeah, and thank you, Cameron, for the call right there, too. I saw a similar frustration, and it is going to come down to matchups, whether it's big or small, between he and Shepard. And I hate to put it this way, but you bet on what is more of a sure thing right now. So to open up space for him to play or clock for him to play, if people are intent wanting to see him on trading Obi, to me that would be off limits. I think Obi is essential personnel. I think you saw that again last night. You have seen that here recently. Get back to that coming up tomorrow too, by the way. I got to go really quick. Mike at 239-1070. Give me 10 seconds of your best material. Go, Mike.
Hey, I'm with you on the boat as far as the Pacers, and I need a JMV Sucks shirt because Donna and I are going out to spring training, and they're playing the Cubs and Rangers when we're going to be out there.
You got it. Well, let me know, and I'll get you one for sure. Okay, Mike?
All right, have a good night.
Mike and Donna and New Pal. Eric, 10 seconds of your best material. Go.
Hey, real quick, I just want to say something, man. We're about the same age, and I lost my mother this year, and sometimes you don't realize how effect you have. It's some of the banter and jokes and your interaction with Wells that helped me get through some tough times, man. And I just
Eric,
leave you with that.
You got it. We are thinking about you, sir. Thank you very much, and that is very kind of you to say. Eric, that's why at the end of the day, we're all friends around here and try to have a really good time, no doubt. IU over on IBC later on tonight. Pacers 9:30 coverage begins here on The Fan. James, thanks. Have a great night.